Welcome in, everyone, to the Right Side of Campus podcast. I'm your host, the Big Man on Campus, here for NFL Week 4. It's the NFL Week 4 preview. We're here to break down every game against the spread, give you our predictions, give our totals, our ATS stuff, what we're looking for in Week 4. Ryan, it's Week 4. How you doing tonight?
Good, man. Doing really well. Looking forward to another video here, another NFL video. The NFL is I feel like it's starting to get some traction now. The first couple weeks, we're going through the motions, and then last week we have a fantastic week of football, and the 1 o'clock games were wild and had some crazy endings. So yeah, I'm excited and hoping we can build off of last week and continue to keep going.
Yeah, unfortunately, Ryan, the video had a little trouble uploading the video, but I did tweet out what we were on. We didn't have a good week last week. It was a tough one for us. But I think from what I've talked on SBR about and to many of the listeners and colleagues of mine, it was a tough week for a lot of people. Books cleaned up last week as far as against the spread. First week, we were 14-4. Last week, kind of came back to earth a little bit, 5-9 on our picks, but we're still 19-13 on the year at 59%. So again, bad weeks happen. It's all about this week, getting back to winning and hopefully having a good week here. Looks like a good card. I'm excited about it. Let's jump into it. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe to the channel. I'm trying to build something here. And again, if you're interested in more content, go over to sbrpicks.com. Ryan, let's jump into it. It's Wednesday evening we're filming this, so we'll hit the Thursday night game and then jump into the Sunday games. Thursday night, you got the Chicago Bears visiting the Green Bay Packers. Total here is at 45.5 across the board. And at Pinnacle, Ryan, there is a 7.5 out there. Every other book is at 7. You know what, Ryan? I usually start out, but I'm going to let you start out with this one. What do you like here?
Yeah, initially, it's tough because I initially kind of want to lean Bears here, just kind of from what we've seen from Chicago so far this year. Look, big win at home last week against Pittsburgh. Week 1 at home against Atlanta, almost knocked them off. Had 2 chances late to score and win that game. So. The Bears showing some life to this early season. Now, both of those games were at home. This is a little different. This is on a week going to Lambeau Field and going to a place where Green Bay has been very good when they're favored in this 3.5 to 7 point range. They've covered 8 of 10 in these opportunities. And with the injuries that Green Bay is going through right now, and seeing Aaron Rodgers last week kind of run around for his life and still finding a way to pull that game out, like I said, it makes me want to kind of lean Chicago, but I'm going to go with Green Bay here. I'm going to go with Green Bay and just think that on the road, Green Bay at home, Chicago on the road, and on a short week, I just don't think that adds up for a lot of success for Chicago. So I'm going to go with Green Bay here, laying the points.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was wondering where you would go out with this game, and I actually this is going to cancel out because I like Chicago here.
Okay.
To be honest, I think you look at some of the injuries for Green Bay, Bakhtiari and Bulaga, both are going to be out for this game. That's big. I mean, Aaron Rodgers has been sacked 13 times this year, Ryan. And look, I haven't really been impressed by Green Bay. I mean, they managed to get a win last week against a winless Bengals team. They needed the fourth quarter to do it. They got crushed by Atlanta, and they beat a pretty poor Seattle team in the first game of the season at home. They only managed 17 points in that game. I just feel like right now they went into the season kind of oddly. I mean, they don't have much of a run game. They had a receiver at running back. They're always mired in injuries in the receiving core. And defensively, I just don't think they're very good. They didn't get much better. They added plenty of names, but early on, I'm just not too impressed with what they have. I don't think Mike Glennon's going to beat this team. You would be right there. But I do like the run game here. Green Bay, I don't know. It's just I'm not comfortable laying points at them right now. But again, it's a tough one. It's up in the air. At 7.5, I really like the Bears. At 7, I feel like I might just end up pushing or something. And again, Green Bay is at home here. They're off a poor performance I'm not really mad that this one's canceling out. So I like Chicago. Ryan likes Green Bay. So for record purposes, it'll just cancel out. Let's jump into Sunday, Ryan. England, another England game here. New Orleans heading on the road to take on Miami. Miami is an underdog in this game. New Orleans at 2.5 across the board. Actually, you know what? They're up to three at bookmaker. Totals at 49.5. I'm going to go over in this game, Ryan. You look at the last 18 London games, 11 have gone over the total. 5 of the last 6 in London have gone over. As long as weather's not an issue, which from what I realize, it is a closed roof there, so I don't think we'll have any problems with weather. This Saints defense has really struggled to get stops this year, Ryan. Their pass defense is among the worst in the league, and overall they're giving up 26 points a game. I know people will point and say, well, again, big man, Miami can't move the ball. And you would be right. They can't. But the point of the matter is they're facing a defense that struggled. They're a team that's really been under criticism by their coach, Adam Gase. And I see Jay Cutler doing enough here to score, into the 20s. I think if they can do that, New Orleans will put points on the board. Miami's not a great defense. They're a team that definitely struggles at times to get stops, and I think both teams are going to be on their heels in this game. I like the fact that Willie Snead's back to help with this offense, and a lot of the time, Ryan, New Orleans will abandon the run and just chuck the ball around. Miami's very good with pace. They run a high tempo, and I think they're 8th in the league in tempo, so they're definitely going to go quick. I like the over here, 49.5. London trends have came in. I'll go over 49.
Yeah, I can definitely see this game going over. 4 of 6 in this series have gone over the total, and with anytime you got the Saints involved, going over is definitely not a bad choice. I definitely support the over there. I'm actually going to go with the Saints for my pick. I'm actually going to give out the Saints here. I'm going to look at this Miami team first, and I have not been impressed with Miami in the first 2 games of the season. Okay, their first game gets canceled. They come back in week 2 for their first game against the Chargers, a game they probably should lose. If that kid can make a field goal, a relatively short field goal, a 40-some yard field goal, they lose that game. And then last week they come out and get absolutely embarrassed by a Jets team that shouldn't be doing any embarrassing this season at all. So I just wonder kind of where Miami's at, really. I mean, they've really struggled. Their pass defense really just isn't anything special. I mean, the cornerback position for them is so messed up with Byron Maxwell and those guys that they got out there. It's really an issue. And the Saints, look, they get back Willie Snead this week, so I mean that should help the over, and I obviously think that helps New Orleans with a guy that Drew Brees has kind of built a nice little bond with over the last 2 seasons. So you get Willie Snead back off of his suspension, add another dynamic playmaker to that offense. And look, New Orleans, their schedule to start the year was pretty tough. I mean, you have to go to Minnesota on a Monday night. That's a tough place, obviously. New England off of a loss. That's just brutal. And then last week they finally come back down and have a winnable game, and they do so, and they do so in convincing fashion, 31-13. So I expect more of the same here from the Saints, and I'm going to lay it here with the Saints. I think they get back on track and continue to build some momentum.
Yeah, I don't hate that play. I think Snead's really going to help here, and Miami losing a home game here hurts. I mean, I think at home I would be a little bit more interested in backing them if they were actually in Miami. But overall, I mean, Jay Cutler's who he is. It seems like Adam Gase is annoyed with the play. And defensively, you're right, they have problems. For the sake, Ryan, we can actually give you 2.5. 2.5's out there at Pinnacle and Bet Online. So
yeah, I'll definitely,
for the sake,
I'll definitely take the 2.5. Last thing too, Jeff. In the last 30 games against the AFC East Division, New Orleans 21-9 ATS.
Interesting stuff there. Yeah, I mean, Drew Brees, look, when he's on your side, it's never a bad thing. So we have 2 plays for that game. Let's see how it goes. Pittsburgh on the road at Baltimore. Pittsburgh laying, we're going to go 3 here. That's a 2.5 is juiced up here. 3 minus 107. Total is at 42. Interesting, Ryan. I thought last week, I thought the Steelers were really distracted with some of the things that went on in the league last week. And, several teams, some sat, some kneeled, some did whatever, but the Steelers didn't even come out. And I thought they were really distracted, if you noticed. I mean, they're one of the teams that really had trouble playing last week. And look, the truth of the matter is Ben Roethlisberger is just not a great road quarterback. They have little to no run game right now with Le'Veon Bell, and that's about it. No one other than him has really done much. And, the good thing about them, though, is their defense has been great. They have the number 2 pass defense in the league, really have been good against the pass, and Baltimore's just been brutal. I mean, they can't score, can't move the ball. They're off of that hideous London trip. I'm going to go under. I think this is one of those typical low-scoring Steeler-Raven games, something like a 21-17, 21-13. I think this is really low-scoring. Ravens, at any rate, are still a pretty good defensive team. 3 of the last 4 have gone under the total. At 42, I'm going to go under, Ryan.
Yeah, I like that play. I'm gonna side with the under as well. I mean, you just see, like you touched on, how many of these games is played in the high teens, low 20s? I mean, it seems like every single matchup between these teams is in that direction. I mean, it's a tough game. It's always very physical, and it's always close. And when you have close games, these two teams, they're not going to get into shootouts. And I agree with you. I think Baltimore's defense still is pretty good. I mean, I don't think it's as good as maybe some people thought it was coming into the season, but it's definitely right. It's definitely good. I mean, last year was just more of an anomaly, I think, more than anything. Things just kind of snowballed. And as you see, sometimes teams just throw in the towel. And I think that's definitely what Baltimore did last week. I mean, they were in London. They were probably like, let's just get this over with and get the hell out of here. So it's a prideful organization and a prideful group over there with John Harbaugh. So they'll be ready to play for sure. It's at home against a rival. So if I were inclined to pick a side, I think I would actually lean Baltimore here. Don't obviously like Pittsburgh on the road with their kind of, it really neutralizes their offense for some reason, especially Ben Roethlisberger. So I like the under, though. We'll ride with the under in this game.
Under it is 42. Actually, you know what? It's 42.5 at Pinnacle. We'll go with 42.5 here and shop around for this line. I mean, one book's laying out 41.5, another book's laying out 42.5. So we'll go for the sake of the video, 42.5 at Pinnacle. Next game here, Ryan. And again, I've actually had certain people reach out to me about why are you giving out Pinnacle lines when you don't bet on Pinnacle? That is incorrect. I've made it clear I have a VPN and I bet on different European books and American books. So, Ryan, I do use Pinnacle. So shove that up your ass. Let's go to the next one. Carolina visiting New England. New England laying 9 total. 48.5. There's some 49s out there, so there's a couple shaded to the over. And look, it's kind of the way I'm looking here. But I'm actually going to give a side out for my pick. I do like the over, but it's hard to bet on Carolina right now, not only on the field, but off of it. You look at Carolina, Ryan, they have really had trouble moving the football. Should have some better success this week. New England is the worst defense in the league stat-wise, but I think at some point, they're going to have to get some stops on their own here, and it's going to be tough to stop Tom Brady. I just think they're really going to pile on towards the end here. Carolina's had major problems, and, I'm getting a lot of weird things out of Carolina. Some people have said Kelvin Benjamin has an injury, and other people are saying he's fine. So there's a lot going on there. Plus, I'm also reading that the Carolina Panthers are planning their own little protest this week up in New England, and that they went to the home of their owner, Jerry Richardson, to get his approval with this. Captain Munnerling's come out and said that he's scared about backlash if they protest. The NFL might go to hell, but Panthers quarterback has different destination in mind. All sorts of weird things going on out of Carolina camp, and it's just not something I want from a volatile team right now like Carolina. I think they have issues in their secondary. I think Tom Brady is going to exploit that this week. For me, I think this ends up being like a 34-20 type of game. I think New England will do enough to win this one by 2 touchdowns. Carolina's a mess right now, Ryan. What do you think?
Carolina is a mess. I mean, quite frankly, Carolina is embarrassing right now. That 2-0 start was such a facade, and if you didn't see it coming, shame on you. To lose at home last week the way they did to the Panthers, or excuse me, to the Saints, didn't lose themselves, obviously. They lost to the Saints. Is a shame. And look, I've got tired talking about Cam Newton. I won't talk about him, but I'll just talk about the rest of the offense quickly. I mean, their leading rusher is Jonathan Stewart. Yes, the same Jonathan Stewart that has been there for 45 years. He has 162 yards on this short season, only averaging a little over 3 yards a carry. The biggest concern, though, for me, and it's part of the reason I think why Cam Newton isn't doing so well. Their leading receiver is Christian McCaffrey. That can't happen. Like, you brought Christian McCaffrey in, yes, to catch passes and be a playmaker and line up all over the place. But, I mean, he can't be your leading receiver. I mean, not only is he leading receiver in yards, he's leading the receiver in receptions as well. And pass catchers on this team only have 2 touchdowns. I mean, Cam Newton has only thrown 2 touchdowns this year and 4 interceptions. So, if they can't get going against this defense, that's an issue. I just don't think that. I mean, if at home they can allow 30 some odd points to the Saints, I mean, what's New England going to do at home? So I like where your head's at. I'm siding with New England in this one as well. 25-12 in the last handful of games is New England ATS.
Yeah, and you look at Carolina. I mean, I think their defensive problems have been a little masked here. I mean, they faced San Francisco, who could be one of the worst offenses in the league overall. Buffalo as well. They only put up 9 points in that game. I just think they're a little bit of a fraud on defense. They've looked okay stat-wise, but New England, I think, is going to do what they want, just like New Orleans did last week. This is a tough spot on the road in New England. I'll go New England. Ryan agrees with me at -9 here. Let's go to the next game. Tennessee, the Titans visiting the Houston Cougars, Texans. I'm thinking about college football here. You got 1.5 here at Pinnacle. Over-under is at 43.5. And I'm seeing the total go down a little bit, and I'm not really sure why. Neither team has looked particularly good defensively this year, particularly Tennessee. Tennessee's pass defense concerns me, Ryan. They have a pretty good defensive line, but I think they're going to get exploited at some point. And Deshaun Watson looked pretty good. Will he be the person to do it? Probably not, but I think Tennessee's offense might be, other than the Patriots, might be the best in the AFC. This offense really looked good last week. They're moving the ball around. They've had a good run game. And look, they don't turn the ball over. They've only turned the ball over once this year. And you got to be pretty impressed by that. I do think Houston will be able to move the ball as well at home here on the turf. I look for them to get into the high teens, maybe low 20s. I think Tennessee can get into the mid, upper 20s. I'm going to go 28-21. I think this game goes over by a couple points here. I'll go over 43.5. I think this is kind of a low total.
Yeah, if I were to get involved in this game, look, from the naked eye right now, I mean, it's only Wednesday night, and I haven't dove into this game that much. But from the naked eye, I really don't want much to do with Tennessee here, just for a few reasons. Big win last weekend over Seattle. That was at home. And then just a couple ATS things here lately that's just not been working in Tennessee's favor. Their numbers on the road haven't been good. I've only covered 6 of the last 17, 7-18 ATS against conference opponents. And then the one that really kind of opens my eyes a little bit is when playing against a team with a losing record, they're 2-11 ATS in their last 13 ball games. So until they actually prove that to me that this really is a really improved Tennessee team and they're going to cover in spots like this, I'm inclined to stay away from them. So I'll side with you once again here, Jeff, actually, and take part in the over under. So both teams defensively, you're right, have really struggled. And I think that's kind of surprising, more so from Houston. This was a team that was really good defensively last year. They were without J.J. Watt for most of the year. You get him back this year, and everyone thought, okay, this defense should be good again. Not the case. Giving up 24 points per game, that's an issue. You would expect Tennessee to be able to score their points, and then Deshaun Watson has done some good things offensively for Houston. So I like the over as well, man.
Yeah, looks a little low, if you ask me. Uh, Next one. Let's go to this one. This game should be riveting. Let's skip Detroit, Minnesota. We don't have a line yet on that game.
Nope.
But again, Case Keenum looked pretty good. But
He
it
did.
is an important matchup, an NFC North showdown. So we'll skip that one with no line. But from what I heard, Ryan, Sam Bradford's playing in this game. We'll see what happens, though. Buffalo, Atlanta's next, 267, 268. You got Atlanta -8. You got a total of 48.5 in this one. Listen, I think Atlanta is the blowout of the weekend. I think they handle the Buffalo Bills here. Buffalo's cannot move the ball. It's not going to get easier on the road at Atlanta, a team that's improved defensively. And Ryan, I think Buffalo, look, if they come out and play well defensively here, then I'm ready to give them plenty of respect. But I'm just not ready to say that they're that good defensively. I mean, you've played against the Jets, Carolina, and Denver on the road. Denver on the road with Trevor Siemian, who has been very good this year, but overall, you're getting him on the road. He's young. He's green around the gills. It just doesn't do much for me. Do something against a real defense or a real offense on the road. I think Atlanta could be the best offense in football, and I think they're going to roll similar to the way they did seemingly last year. This is just not enough points for me. I think this one is definitely a double-digit win for the Falcons. It looks pretty standard, but I'm just not ready to trust Buffalo defensively.
Yeah, I'm not ready to trust Buffalo just in general. I mean, look, if Buffalo had lost last weekend and, just didn't look all that great and lost by 10 points or so at home to Denver, maybe you look at them in this spot. Atlanta's flying high. You come back home after a hard fought win against Detroit last week. Maybe you look at them in this spot. But yeah, coming off that win, that big win against Denver, now you got to go to Atlanta against a team that's clicking on all cylinders. I mean, Atlanta and Matt Ryan last week threw 3 interceptions on the road against a Detroit team who is a very good team in that conference and still found a way to win. That tells you something about Atlanta this year. You mentioned how good their offense is, and I'm just going to ride with them here again. And they're clicking ever since that Sunday night game to open their stadium down there in Atlanta. They've been rolling the last 2 weeks. So why go against them here against the Buffalo team that, quite frankly, I just don't think is very good.
Yeah, particularly offensively. I think Buffalo has a lot of problems scoring in this game. I'll be interested to see what. I mean, I could do the math now, but it's just. I guess I don't really feel like it, Ryan. I'll have to wait for the team total. But let's go to the next one here. The LA Rams traveling to the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys -6. Total is at 47.5. I thought, Ryan, this is kind of a shitty scheduling spot. I mean, Dallas is on a short week, and they're playing against a team who's been off, going on, it'll be over a week that they have off. I mean, kind of unfair if you're the Cowboys, but it's really about, Ryan, what St. Louis, or not St. Louis, LA Ram team shows up here. Is it the one that beat the Indianapolis Colts by a ton, or is it the team that struggled against Washington and gave up a ton of points to San Francisco? I'm one to think that you get the good LA Ram team here. I'm pretty high on them. I think overall they have pretty good skill position players. They have a good running back in Gurley, and Goff is getting mature by the day. I just don't trust the Dallas secondary. I don't think they're very good. I think the LA Rams can hang around in this game. I think a lot of people at this number are going to look to Dallas and say, well, they're back home. They're playing a Rams team we just saw get crushed defensively. Dallas is going to run all over them. I think the Rams hang around here and cover this game. I'll be interested to see if we can get this up to 7. If we get this up to 7, I really like it. What do you think, Ryan?
Yeah, that would be some interesting line movement. I mean, the line did open at 8, and now it's dropped all the way down to 6. So, if it would get back up to 7, that would be some interesting line movement for sure throughout the course of the week. Yeah, I mean, I just wonder if the Rams are ready for a spot like this. I mean, going to Dallas, to one of the better teams in the conference, I think definitely one of the top 5, 6 teams in the conference. I would say. Um, I just don't know if the Rams can handle it. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I'm not really sure what to say because I don't feel like I want to put my money in their hands after what I've seen from them the last 2 weeks. I mean, yeah, they beat San Francisco, but defensively they were terrible. I mean, this offense for Dallas is pretty solid. Um, I'll side with you because I'll
Right,
side
you
with the
can
Rams.
pass. It's not a
No,
problem.
no, I'm gonna take the Rams just because I think you're right. We talked about it before with Dallas being a big public side, and I think that'll obviously hold true again this weekend with people seeing LA and just kind of like I was saying, not sure if they're ready to buy in on them right now. But yeah, the short week and the scheduling obviously is a conflict. But I'll go with the Rams here. But it's this isn't a play that I really like one way or the other. I don't have a really good feel for this one.
Yep, we said we'll go over every game. Sometimes we don't ever want to give picks. And listen, this
Right,
isn't going to be
right.
on my card, but again, we'll go over everyone. Cincinnati, Cleveland. Cincinnati laying, what do we got here? 3. Total is 41.5. And this is a line that, look, I guess you're going to get for a reason. And this is a good thing about Cincinnati. I mean, it's not good for Bengal fans, but for gamblers, I think we're getting a nice price here in Cincinnati. I mean, if this was a Cincinnati team that had won one of their first 3 games, this line would be up closer to 6, I feel like. But due to how they played, it's at 3. You're getting a team with a ton of weapons on it who played pretty well last week. Their defensive leaders back and perfect. And they have a quarterback who's capable. I know he hasn't played well, but I just think Cincinnati is a much better team. I don't think there's much of a real home field advantage for the Browns. I know they have great fans, but they just don't win very often, Ryan. I mean, you look at over the last 35 games overall for Cleveland, they've won 4 times. You look at their last 30 games as an underdog, they've lost 28 of them. And I think this is a good coming out party for the Bengals. I think this is about as big as a must win as you can get. I don't think Cleveland, I don't know that Cleveland will win a game this year. I think they're poor. I thought they'd be a little bit better than they are. They're surely not. I think Cincinnati wins by double digits, Ryan.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, we look at the last 4 meetings, all of which Cincinnati wins, all of which are by 13 points or more. So, I mean, the series over the last handful of seasons hasn't been very close. Cincinnati has dominated. And look, the change in offensive coordinator couldn't come at a better time. And lo and behold, a new guy comes in and says, okay, let's get the ball in the hands of our 2 best players, AJ Green and Joe Mixon, and they both have great games last week, albeit in a losing effort. But I mean, that's a tough spot going to Green Bay for anyone. But the offense finally came to life. I mean, they scored 24 points. They held a lead in that game, couldn't hang on to it. Rodgers did what he did, but still, you had to be kind of encouraged on what Cincinnati did last week. I mean, we liked them last week at +9. We talked about that on the show, and I like them here again. I think they'll score some points. You said getting Burfict back in that lineup, it helps on the field, but it helps off the field as well. I mean, he's the leader. He's a leader. He's an emotional leader. He's very, very, very vocal. So, yeah, I like Cincinnati in this spot. And I think you hit the nail on the head, man. You're getting him at a very good price because they are 0-3.
Yeah, we'll take the Bengals -3 against Cleveland. Next, Jacksonville on the road -3 at the Jets. Totals 39.5. This is another line I don't understand. Look, I mean, and I don't think this is a trap because it's Jacksonville. The Jacksonville Jags aren't a public team. No one's betting them week to week. Do I think they're a little bit more desirable here? Yes, because of what they did last week in London. But I do attribute a lot of that to Baltimore just not showing up. I do think, though, the Jags are pretty realistic on defense. Ryan, they have the best pass defense in the league, which is surprising to me. Their pass rush is pretty good. And Blake Bortles isn't making those really, really bad turnovers that he usually does. Their run game's all of a sudden been pretty good. And look, I don't put a lot of stock into the Jets last week. They also had a team that just didn't show up in Miami last week. I don't know if Miami, they must have stayed in South Beach. I don't know where they were. I think this is another very good price. I don't think the Jags are going to get crushed here as far as from the public. I just don't think the public's really too high on the Jags just yet. Did they have a good game against the Ravens? Sure, but you can't try to sell me that this is a trap spot. It's the Jags, for Christ's sakes. But I think they'll cover here. I like the spot for them. I think their defense is for real, Ryan.
Yeah, Jacksonville's a pretty fun story this year, aren't they? I mean, they're another kind of team that's been up and down, but and they're battling through some injuries. Fournette's given them a very nice running game there to kind of take a lot of the pressure off of Blake Bortles. And the Jets, I just can't foresee the Jets putting together two good games in a row. I mean, this team is still one of the worst teams in football. And look, they were fortunate to play a good game last week against a Miami team that, like you said, didn't show up. But I'm inclined to just fade the Jets as much as possible. I mean, I just don't see them putting together two really good games again, albeit it is a home game and Jacksonville's coming off a cross-country trip. But look, if you're Jacksonville, man, and you want to make some strides in a very winnable division, I mean, these are games you have to have. I mean, point blank. I mean, the Titans, I mean, look, the Titans are a good team, but, where are they going to go? And then you have the Colts and who else in there? The Texans. So this is definitely a division or at least a wild card spot that I think is achievable for Jacksonville, at least at this point in the early season. And this is a game, if you lose, you're really doing yourself a disservice. So I like Jacksonville.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a game they need to have. Next one, 269, 270, Tampa Bay. -3, total 44 against the Giants. Giants come in here, Ryan, dread 0-3. And, for one quarter, their offense got going against the Eagles, but Fletcher Cox was out and their secondary was riddled, and they still ended up losing the game. I think
Jeff, adjust your mic a little bit. You're kind of it's pretty staticky there. Kind of maybe just say something. Yep, there you go. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, Tampa Bay comes in here, kind of blase. They didn't play well last week against Minnesota, but their offense is starting to shine through a little bit. I think they're going to have a field day on this Giants offensive line. We have to remember, Ryan, Fletcher Cox wasn't in much of that game last week, so the pass rush was a bit of a mystery for the Eagles. But I expect Joe McCoy and company to be able to get to Eli Manning here and cause him havoc. The big thing for me in this game, Ryan, is if Brent Grimes plays. I think Brent Grimes is integral to the Giants' defense, or to the Giants stopping the Giants this weekend with Odell Beckham. If he's in there, which I need to find out a little bit more information on him. If he's in there, I think Tampa Bay wins and covers here. I just can't back the Giants right now. I think they're a bad team. Their offense sucks, and they can't run the ball. And their offensive line's an absolute dumpster fire. I'll go Tampa Bay as a home favorite here at -3. I think we see them shot a little bit this week, and it just gets worse for the Giants. I mean, listen, I know it's early, but at what point do you look at Ben McAdoo and say, maybe this guy just isn't an NFL coach?
I look at him and not sure how he's a human being, the way he kind of looks on that sideline. I make the comment to you every time the Eagles play the Giants. I laugh every time I see Ben McAdoo. It's just I can't help it. It's nothing personal. It's just I can't help but laugh. And yeah, I mean, you scratch your head with the Giants, and we saw him firsthand last week do some good things, but then we also saw him do some really bad things. And I just they have to get a win at some point, but I just don't think this is the best of spots. I mean, you gotta go on the road again, back-to-back weeks, to a Tampa Bay team that got flat out embarrassed last week, to a backup quarterback. And Winston throws 3 interceptions. I'm sure this week of practice for Tampa Bay has been really, really shitty. So look, defensively, they have to show up Tampa Bay, because they were awful last week. I mean, Vernon Hargreaves got absolutely destroyed last week in Minnesota, and that has to change against Beckham and Sterling Shepard and Brandon Marshall. I mean, that has to change. So they have to get after it defensively, and I think they will. I think the front four, like you mentioned with Gerald McCoy and Chris Baker, if he plays in that group of guys, can really take advantage of that offensive line for the Giants. So I'll side with Tampa Bay here. I think just the things just get even worse for the New York Football Giants.
Yeah, from what I understand, Ryan, last week Chris Baker was out, but I believe he was just sick. So he'll be back in. He wasn't actually injured. And Brent Grimes, according to reports, could have went last week, but it wasn't. If it was a playoff game, he probably would have played. But I guess they were just holding him out for precautionary reasons. But Quan Alexander, the same thing. So hopefully they're back this week. That will be huge for the Stevens. If they're in, I'm interested in Tampa Bay. If they're in, I'm making them a premium play. And according to Scott Smith, who covers the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, all those players were full participators in practice. So Brent Grimes should be back this week. So that's important for my capping. I might actually be interested in sending that one out. So yeah, I'll go Bucks here. Minus the 3. Let's move on, Ryan. This is an interesting one. As we know, we're Eagle fans. Philadelphia Eagles is an underdog here at the Chargers. Chargers -1, total 47.5. And Ryan, I'm lost as to why the Chargers are favored here. I don't understand it. As you know, Ryan, I'm a big bettor. I'm very much interested in lines, and I make my lines up for the games beforehand, and in no way would I have made the Chargers a favorite. I just want to mention to anyone who's living under a rock, the Chargers don't win very often. Okay, they don't win close games, and over the last 35 games overall, Ryan, take a guess at how many wins they have in those 35 games.
Just straight up?
Yeah, 35 games.
I got 12.
9.
Wow.
So they don't win very often. They're not very good. Every year we talk about it. This is their year. This is the year the Chargers are going to do something. And I was somewhat excited about this team. They got Mike Williams. They went out and got Forrest Lamp, who was a great offensive lineman. But like always, they got hurt. And like always, Philip Rivers made too many mistakes early on. And like always, the kicking game is a problem. I'm looking at this game and, again, saying, why are they a favorite? They have no home field advantage at all. They've lost 8 in a row, and they have the second worst rush defense in the league. I hope and pray Doug Peterson goes back to the run like he did last week. And if you look at the run-pass ratio, Ryan, I believe the pass ratio was 3 plays higher than the run ratio. So it's a lot more compact last week. I think if Carson just doesn't turn the ball over, the receivers are a definite advantage in this game. And Jordan Hicks and Rodney McLeod are in this game. So that means, barring some kind of practice injury, we're going to get some high-level players back in our secondary and our linebacking core. That's big, especially with Fletcher Cox out. I would like to see a guy like Destiny Vio play, Ryan. Guys like him, can really help on the defensive line, but overall, I just don't really get how you can bet the Chargers here. I think the Eagles, as an underdog, are a good play.
Yeah, look, this is obviously, like you said, this is interesting. This is a head scratcher for sure. When the line came out, you ask yourself, why is an 0-3 Chargers team who has not looked good at all in the season, why are they a home favorite to the Eagles, who are 2-1 and were in that game that they lost against the Chiefs on the road? So, is this one of them spots where Vegas knows something? Are they taking into account that the Chargers have kind of owned the Eagles? They've won 4 of the last 6 matchups in the series. Are they? I don't know what their thought process is. San Diego, or excuse me, LA has really struggled to score. You look at their first 3 games of the season. They scored 21, 17, and 10. That number just keeps dropping and dropping and dropping. And then it's the Eagles defense, who, look, they've played well this season, this Eagles defense. For the most part, albeit except for the fourth quarter last week, we're pitching a shutout. And, like you said, you get McLeod back. Hicks is going to be in there. He won't miss any time, which is a good thing. Cox is out, but still the front four is still very good. And look, Rivers is a quarterback that, if you get in his face and you rattle him a little bit, he's going to make really poor decisions. He showed that last week against the Chiefs. He threw 3 picks. Probably could have thrown 6 in that game. Some were dropped by defensive backs and whatnot for the Chiefs. So, I'm inclined to side with the Eagles here. I know it looks like a fishy line, but I'm going to take it, and I think this Eagles team is really focused, and they got some really high goals this year, and I like the leaders on the Eagles, and they got this team focused and ready to go. I think that win last week. I don't just from like reading and listening to the team this week in interviews, I feel like that win last week really did something to this team.
What did you hear, Ryan?
No, I said well, just
The
from
overall sentiment.
yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, I feel like that did something to them. I feel like that
Because
was
last year they lose games like that.
correct,
That's how they are. And
correct.
that's what I like about it. And early on, Ryan, I mean, you saw it with the game against I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm missing it. Who did they just lose to?
The Chiefs.
Right. I thought to myself, oh no, say, now for me it annoyed me because it was like, a good team came, in here, we went out there, we played a good football team, and they had their shots. And it's like, oh no, here we go again. This is how they do. This is what they did last year. But then they went ahead last week, and last year Carson Wentz would have, you know, not screwed up, but Doug would have did something stupid, and they would have just went to overtime, and then probably lost in overtime. But they were able to get in the field goal range, and they had their chance. Jake Elliott buried the field goal, and I think you're right. I think it was big for this team, especially going on the road now out to LA. I always hate these trips for the Eagles, and it always seems like they lose these games out on the West Coast. But for me, I think as an underdog, I'm not sure why they're an underdog here. I'll go with the Eagles as well. Eagles +1 our pick here. Next one, Niners at Arizona. Arizona -7, total 44.5. I'm not betting Arizona. There's no possible way. I just don't think they're very good either. I think defensively they've had many lapses this year already. They're just not seemingly playing very smart. I don't know why. And Carson Palmer needs to retire. Their offensive line is lost without several key components. They have no run game. Their one receiver is 35 years old. They have a couple, journeymen, second and third receivers. But overall, I just don't think they're very good. I don't think San Francisco is either. But I saw something from them last week. I want to say they can hang here and cover the 7. Out of all the games of the card, this is my least interested game. But I'm going to take the Niners here. I can't bet the Arizona Cardinals.
That's funny, Jeff, because I actually really like this game, and I actually really like San Francisco here in this spot. And your head's in the right spot here. At no point can I bet Arizona here. At no point should Arizona be laying almost a touchdown to anyone. I'm sorry. I mean, all you got to do is look back to Monday night, what this team did. This team should have been able to run away with that game. If this is a good football team, if that's a good football team on Monday night, they'd run away with that game. And they win it by 10 to 14 points. No doubt about it. And they were up 14-0 at one point, but guess what? Your offensive line gets a penalty, gets taken off the board, you missed a field goal, and then they go down and score a touchdown. I mean, that's the kind of stuff good teams don't do. And that's the kind of stuff that you get with the Cardinals, and that's the kind of stuff that's going to piss you off when you lay almost a touchdown. And then that's going to happen, and you're going to ask yourself, why did I take the bait? Arizona's just got a lot of holes, and San Francisco, I think, with that good defensive line that they have, I think against an offensive line that just got owned on Monday night against Dallas, is going to have their hands full again on Sunday. I like San Francisco in this spot with a couple extra days of rest. I'm taking it. I hope this gets up to 7, maybe even 7.5. I would love it. And I like San Francisco here, Jeff.
Yeah, it's actually at 7 at most of the books.
Okay, beautiful.
The one reason here is it's actually a -106. San Francisco -106 at +7. So, yeah, I like it. Let's rock with it. I think they're better defensive than they showed. I really do. That was just a shootout last week. That's how it goes. Oakland at Denver's next. Denver -3. Total is 46.5. Ryan, it seems like every week Denver is a 2.5 point favorite. You notice that? I think we lost Ryan for a second. He's muted. There's something wrong with his connection there. We'll have to get him back up here. Let me just text him and let him know he's muted. Sometimes you don't see that. But it seems like Denver's always a 2.5 point or 3 point favorite. It's pretty interesting. And we have Ryan. Ryan, you back? I don't know. That's weird. The joys of live radio. I feel like we had this happen last week, but for me, I'm going to go with my breakdown here. I wasn't interested in what I saw from Oakland last week. I thought their play calling was bad. They just didn't play well. A lot of boneheaded plays, drop balls. Carr didn't look good. The run game wasn't good. Defensively, they looked a mess. David Amerson doesn't belong in this league. And Denver at home is a tough place to play. I know this is a divisional matchup, and I think Oakland's still a pretty good team, but I like what I've seen out of Simeon. I like what I've seen out of this receiving core, and I like what I've seen out of this defense. I think they're going to be in for a big day here. Cooper seems like he is really tailed off as a pro, and I think he's going to struggle in this game going into Denver. They're always a 2.5 point favorite, 3 point favorite, and they always get the job done. I don't see any reason they don't do it here. We're having a little problem with Ryan's mic, so I'll just finish it up here. I think we only have 1 or 2 games left. I get the feeling he's going to like Denver here as well. Indy, Seattle, this is a really tough game here. Seattle in 13, total is 41.5. I just don't have a lot of confidence that even though Seattle's had a little trouble defensively, I don't think Jacoby Brissett can go in there with limited weapons and do too much. I think this would be a lower scoring game, but I do kind of think Seattle's going to do enough to win this one by double digits and cover that number. I think this is like a 27-10 type of game. I think defensively they really come to play here. It's going to be tough with the 12th man there. I think Seattle gets going here. Indy's a bad defense, as we know. They don't really have much there. I think Seattle goes in and actually has a pretty nice offensive performance here. They get Chris Carson going a little bit. And like I said, win this one, I don't know, 27-10, 28-10, something like that. Ryan, I mentioned I like Denver minus 2.5 against Oakland. I wasn't impressed with what I saw of Oakland last week. Defensively, they had problems, and their play calling's been terrible. I also said I like Seattle minus 13 against Indy. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm on the same side with you as far as Denver goes. I'm not – Oakland – it'd be nice if this game was at home for Oakland after you come off the poor performance last week against the Redskins where just nothing seemed to click. Now you have to face an even better defense. And let's be honest, I mean, Washington isn't even that good of a defensive team, and they kind of stifled you. Now you have to go – not only face a good defense, but it's on the road. I just don't think it's a very good spot and a very good opportunity to break out of that funk from last week for Oakland. So I'm on the same side of you with the Broncos. You talked about Seattle. You said you did like Seattle. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. If there's a time for this offense to get back on track, it's right now. It's at home and it's against a defensive team that's just not very good, and a team in general that's just not very good. And Brissett's just not going to go into Seattle and score very many points. I like Seattle as well. I think you mentioned Atlanta being the blowout of the weekend. I think Seattle finally gets back on track, and they need to. After losing last week, must get this game on Sunday night.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. Monday Night Football, you got the Washington Redskins visiting Kansas City. Kansas City's at 6.5, totals at 49.5. Look, I think Washington they were lucky they played a team last week who, out of Oakland, quit about a quarter in. They look like their play calling was disastrous. You're down 14 points with like 4 minutes to go, and they're running the ball and stuff. It's just very odd play calling. I didn't understand it at all. I think Kansas City's for real. They're good at home. I just don't know how good Washington is. I think their run game still struggles a little bit. I don't trust Cousins on the road. And defensively, I think if the Chiefs can block up front, I think as long as Kerrigan's not in the backfield constantly, I'm going to go with Kansas City. I think at this number, it's fair. Kansas City's good. They're for real. I don't know if I believe in their defense just yet, but I think they'll do enough here to get a cover. It's Wednesday. This game is, 5 days away, but I'll do Kansas City at this number.
Yeah, I don't have a very good feel in this game. I mean, Kansas City is going to slip up sooner or later. I'm not sure when it's going to be, obviously, but I'd be hard pressed to say it's going to be this game at home. You know, Washington's coming off a huge primetime win against Oakland, and I'm still not like overly impressed of what I've seen from Washington. I think last week was just kind of one of them games where look, it happens, and if they play 10 times, Oakland probably wins 7 or 8 of them. Um, to be honest, so I'll go with Kansas City, but this is definitely another game that I just really have no interest in. So I'll just ride with you with KC.
Let's recap, Ryan. Week 4 coming up, coming at you. We went through every game. Here's our picks. Saints over 49. Saints minus 2.5. Ravens and Steelers under 42.5. Patriots minus 9. Titans and Houston over 43.5. Atlanta minus 8 against Buffalo. Rams plus 6 against the Cowboys. Cincinnati minus 3 against Cleveland. Jacksonville minus 3 against the Jets. Bucks minus 3 against the Giants. Eagles plus 1 against the LA Chargers. Niners plus 7 against Arizona. Denver minus 2.5 against Oakland. Seattle minus 13 against Indy. And Kansas City minus 6.5 against Washington Monday night. Ryan, as always, great stuff. I always appreciate you coming on Talking Football. This has been the Big Men on Campus podcast, the NFL edition. Ryan, let's get going here. We're up about 59% on the year. Let's add to the record. It's only been 2 weeks. Let's add to the record here and have a good NFL week 4. Thanks for coming on, man.
Yep, no problem, man. You got it.
As always, like, subscribe, tell your friends, comment on the video. Let us know what you agree with, what you don't agree with. And again, if you're going to bet, keep in mind these picks are for entertainment only. Are we going to bet several of them? Sure. We'll go over every game here at the Big Men on Campus podcast. Everyone have a great week. We'll see you back next week for week 5.